All right, so you're prepping for a food analyst interview.
Great choice.
It's a fantastic field.
Yeah.
And today we're using RoleCatcher's guides to give you, well, kind of like a cheat sheet. So we're going to talk about what the role actually involves, how to tackle those tricky interview questions, and how their AI can actually help you stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, a well-prepared candidate is a confident candidate.
Right.
And we're all about confidence here. So we're going to break down what those interviewers really want to hear.
Yes.
You know, how can you showcase not only your passion for food science, but also those awesome lab skills you've been honing?
Exactly. So let's start by really defining what a food analyst actually does, because it goes way beyond just, testing food.
Right.
It's a huge responsibility. You're essentially the guardian of safety, quality, and you've got to make sure everything's compliant across the entire food supply chain.
Okay, so paint me a picture. What does a day in the life actually look like for someone in this role?
So picture yourself in the lab. You're surrounded by beakers. You've got high-tech equipment.
Right.
Now, this lab could be within a manufacturing plant, maybe a research facility, or even a dedicated quality control lab. It's a very hands-on role. You're going to be analyzing those samples, interpreting the data, making sure that you communicate those findings really clearly to the right people.
So it's a blend of science, tech, and those all-important communication skills.
Absolutely. And the stakes are high. You're dealing with potential pathogens, you're dealing with chemicals, and overall, you're ensuring the integrity of that entire food supply chain. So safety protocols are super important. You're often collaborating with a diverse team. Quality assurance, researchers, regulatory folks, you've even got those product manufacturers.
Wow, it sounds like a really dynamic environment.
It definitely is.
Now let's talk about those interview questions. RoleCatcher's guides actually highlight some common ones.
Yes.
They've shared 10 key sample questions, and I think it's time to tackle those head on.
Let's do it.
What do you say?
Let's dive in. A classic one you're likely to encounter is, can you explain your understanding of food safety regulations? Now, what the interviewer is really trying to gauge here is not just your knowledge, but you're aware of the why behind those regulations.
So it's not enough to just rattle off a list of acronyms.
Exactly. They want to see that you grasp the core principles, how they're enforced, and ideally how they impact the work you'd be doing as a food analyst. This is where having specific examples from maybe internships or previous lab roles can make you really shine.
So if I were prepping for this question, what's a good way to structure my answer?
Think about it this way. You want to connect your knowledge of regulations to tangible actions. Maybe you could say something like, I understand that food safety regulations are designed to protect consumers from potential hazards. And in my previous role, I applied these principles by meticulously following GMPs during sample preparation and analysis.
Okay, that's a great example. Now, are there any common traps that candidates should try to avoid with this question?
One pitfall is giving vague or incomplete answers.
Right.
You don't want to sound unsure or like you're just trying to wing it. It's also crucial to avoid making assumptions about regulations without truly knowing the facts.
Got it. So honesty and accuracy are key.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another common question. Can you tell me about a time when you had to troubleshoot a food quality issue?
Oh, yeah.
This one seems like it's all about showing off those analytical and problem-solving skills.
It absolutely is. And it's what we call a behavioral question. The interviewer wants to see how you've applied your knowledge in real-world situations. How do you think on your feet? And ultimately, how do you solve problems?
Okay, so how do I choose the right example to share?
Right.
I mean, there must be tons of stories from the lab.
The key is to pick a situation that directly relates to the role you're applying for and highlights the specific skills they're looking for. Did you ever encounter an unexpected result during an analysis? Maybe a batch of product didn't meet quality standards. Those are the kinds of stories that will capture their attention.
Okay, so let's say I got my story. How do I actually tell it in a way that impresses the interviewer?
Think of it like a mini mystery novel. You start by setting the scene. What were you working on? What was the issue? And what were those initial signs of a problem? Then you walk them through your investigative process. What tests did you conduct? What data did you analyze? And most importantly, how did you use that information to pinpoint the root cause?
So it's not just about the solution, it's about showing them how I got there.
Exactly. And don't forget the grand finale. How did your solution impact the situation? Did you prevent a recall? Did you improve product quality? Quantify the results whenever possible? Because numbers speak volumes.
Okay, so no vague answers. And numbers are my friends.
Yeah.
Got it. Are there any common mistakes candidates make when answering this question?
One big no-no is playing the blame game. Even if someone else made the initial error, focus on your role in identifying and resolving the issue. Also, be sure to choose an example that is relevant to the job you're applying for. Don't go off on a tangent about troubleshooting your computer.
Right. Stay focused, keep it professional. Speaking of staying ahead of the curve, the next question RoleCatcher highlights is, how do you keep up with the latest developments in the food industry? This one seems like it's all about showing your passion and your commitment to continuous learning.
It is. It's a subtle way of them asking, are you truly invested in this field? They want to see that you're not just looking for a job, but you're genuinely interested in food science and technology and in that ever-evolving landscape of regulations.
So how can I show them I'm a lifelong learner, not just someone cramming for an interview?
Be specific. Mention industry publications you subscribe to, websites you follow, professional organizations you're a member of, or even conferences you've attended. Bonus points if you can connect your learning to tangible improvements in your work.
Okay, so for example, if I read a research paper about a new rapid testing method for pathogens, could I mention that and how it inspired me to, I don't know, explore implementing something similar in my previous lab?
That's a fantastic example. It shows that you're not just passively absorbing information, you're actively seeking ways to apply it and improve your skills.
Okay, I'm starting to see the pattern here.
Yeah.
Specific examples are key.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to a question that might sound a bit intimidating, and it is. Can you describe your experience with sensory evaluation? I'll admit, this one makes me think of, I don't know, fancy wine tastings.
Right.
Something like that.
It does have that air of sophistication to it, doesn't it?
It does.
But sensory evaluation is essentially a structured way to assess food quality, and we use all of our senses, sight, smell, taste, touch, and even sound. It's crucial in making sure that those products meet consumer expectations.
So how much detail should I go into when describing my experience? What if I haven't had, like, formal training in sensory evaluation?
Honesty is key. If you have direct experience, describe the specific methods you've used, the types of products you've assessed, and any challenges you've overcome. But even without formal training, you can still highlight transferable skills. Have you ever participated in taste tests or visually inspected products for quality control?
So I could talk about how I meticulously check for color consistency in a batch of candies. Or maybe how I can, I don't know, identify subtle differences in the aroma of spices.
Those are great examples. Emphasize your attention to detail, your ability to perceive subtle differences in those sensory attributes, and your eagerness to learn those new methodologies.
So even if I don't have all the answers, it's about showcasing my potential.
Exactly.
Okay. What about common pitfalls to avoid with this question?
Avoid fabricating experience or giving irrelevant examples. Your story about being a whiz at blind taste tests at parties won't demonstrate your professional capabilities in a lab setting.
Right.
You know?
Keep it relevant and professional. Now, this next question seems like it's all about the big picture. And that is, what do you consider to be the most important quality control measures in food production? This is your chance to really show that you understand those principles and practices that ensure safe, high-quality food.
It is.
And remember, it's not just about listing those measures.
Right.
You need to articulate why they're important and relate them to that ultimate goal, protecting the consumer.
Yes.
So if I were prepping for this one, what are some key quality control measures I should be ready to discuss?
The foundational ones are good manufacturing practices, GMPs, and hazard analysis, and critical control points, HACCP. Think of GMPs as setting the stage for a safe production environment. Everything from sanitation to pest control. HACCP, on the other hand, is a systematic approach to identifying and controlling potential hazards throughout that entire production process.
Okay, so those are the biggies.
Yeah.
But to really stand out, should I don't know, delve into more specific measures?
Absolutely. Mentioning things like statistical process control, internal audits, or even how you work with suppliers to ensure ingredient quality shows that you're thinking about the entire system, not just your little corner of the lab.
So it's all about showcasing a well-rounded understanding.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what are some common mistakes that I should avoid making with this question?
Don't give a generic answer.
Right.
The interviewer wants to hear your perspective, not just a regurgitation of textbook definitions. Also, make sure you justify your choices.
Okay.
Explain why you consider certain measures to be most important and how they contribute to consumer safety.
Got it. Specific, insightful, and always connected back to that bigger picture.
Yes.
All right. The next question touches on a really crucial aspect of a food analyst's role, and it's all about collaboration. It asks, Can you give an example of a time when you had to work with external suppliers to ensure food quality?
Hmm.
I'm guessing this is all about communication and diplomacy.
You hit the nail on the head. Food safety isn't just about what happens within the lab, right?
Yeah.
You have to be able to build relationships, advocate for quality standards, and find solutions that benefit everyone involved.
So what kind of examples should I be prepared to share?
Think of a situation where you had to be proactive. Maybe you identified a potential issue with an ingredient and worked with the supplier to find a solution. Or perhaps you developed a communication protocol to ensure consistent quality standards across the entire supply chain.
So I should highlight my ability to anticipate problems and work collaboratively to solve them.
Exactly. And as always, be specific. Don't just say, you communicated with suppliers. Detail the steps you took, the challenges you encountered, and the positive outcomes you achieved.
And what about those all-important soft skills? Should I be highlighting those as well?
Absolutely. Skills like negotiation, conflict resolution, and diplomacy can be just as important as your technical expertise.
Yeah.
So showcase your ability to build rapport, communicate effectively, and find common ground, even in challenging situations.
All right, so it's not just about being a science whiz.
Right.
It's about being a team player, a problem solver.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that often trips people up in interviews, and that's time management. The next question asks, how do you manage your time when working on multiple projects simultaneously?
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic, but it can be tricky to answer effectively.
I know, I always freeze up when I get this one.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to approach it?
Think about your personal time management strategies. Do you use to-do lists, calendar reminders, project management software? Whatever your methods are, describe them clearly and concisely. But don't just list the tools, explain how you actually use them.
So instead of just saying, I use a calendar, I can say something like, I block out specific time slots on my calendar for each project to ensure I'm dedicating adequate time and attention to all of them.
That's much better. It gives context and showcases a more strategic approach to time management. Don't forget to back up your strategies with real-world examples. Have you ever successfully juggled multiple projects? Maybe you led a complex testing project while simultaneously handling routine quality control checks.
So it's about showing them that I can handle the heat, prioritize tasks, stay organized, even when things get hectic.
Exactly.
Are there any common mistakes I should avoid with this question?
One mistake is giving vague answers like, I'm good at multitasking.
Right.
Be specific.
Yeah.
Another trap is pretending you can handle more than you realistically can.
Honesty and self-awareness are key here.
Right.
It's okay to admit that you might need to seek help or adjust priorities when necessary.
Right. Being a team player, knowing your limits. Okay, let's move on to a question that's all about compliance and attention to detail. And it asks, how do you ensure that food products are labeled accurately and comply with regulatory requirements?
Oh, this one is all about protecting consumers and upholding the integrity of the brand. The interviewer wants to see that you understand the intricacies of food labeling regulations and you have that meticulous approach to ensuring products meet those standards.
So what are some key aspects of food labeling that I should be ready to discuss?
The basics include things like ingredient lists, nutritional information, allergen declarations, and country of origin labeling. But beyond those core elements, there are specific regulations that vary depending on the type of product, target market, and relevant regulatory bodies. It's a complex landscape.
That sounds like a lot to keep track of. How can I showcase my expertise in this area? Highlight your familiarity with specific regulations. In the U.S., you might mention the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, while in the EU, it would be the General Food Law Regulation. You can also describe your process for reviewing labels, checking for accuracy, and ensuring alignment with legal and marketing departments.
So it's about showing them that I have a system for making sure everything is done by the book.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any specific examples I could use to illustrate this?
Absolutely. Have you ever caught a labeling error that could have led to a recall? Or maybe you developed a system for tracking and verifying label information throughout that entire production process. These are the kinds of stories that demonstrate your commitment to accuracy and consumer safety.
Okay. So real-world examples are always a winner.
Yes.
Now, what are some common mistakes I should avoid?
Don't give a generic answer like, I read the regulations. Showcase your depth of knowledge and your ability to apply those regulations in real-world scenarios. And remember, honesty is always the best policy. If you have knowledge gaps, acknowledge them and express your eagerness to learn.
Right. No bluffing.
No bluffing.
Okay. All right, we're nearing the end of our question lineup here. The next one asks, can you describe a time when you had to implement a new analytical technique to evaluate food quality? I have a feeling this one is all about being adaptable, embracing new technologies.
It's all about innovation. The interviewer wants to see that you're not just comfortable following established protocols, but that you're eager to explore new methods, enhance your analytical capabilities.
So what makes for a compelling example in this case?
Choose a situation where you identified a need for improvement, researched potential solutions, and successfully implemented a new technique. Maybe you introduced a faster or more accurate method for detecting contaminants, or developed a novel approach to analyzing nutritional content.
So it's about showing them that I'm not afraid to challenge the status quo and find ways to do things better.
Exactly. And as always, be specific. Describe the technique, explain why you chose it, and highlight the positive outcomes. Did it improve efficiency? Did it reduce costs? Did it enhance data accuracy? Quantify the impact whenever possible.
Okay, numbers are my friends.
Yeah.
Now, are there any common pitfalls to avoid with this question?
One is choosing an example that's not truly innovative. Simply switching to a different brand of reagent doesn't count as implementing a new analytical technique. Another trap is failing to explain the rationale behind your decision. Don't just say, I used this new method. Articulate why you chose it and how it addressed a specific need.
Right. It's not just about what I did.
Yes.
It's about why I did it.
Exactly.
Okay, we've arrived at our final question, and it brings us back to the big picture. How do you ensure that food quality is maintained throughout the supply chain? I'm guessing this is all about showcasing my systems thinking approach to food safety.
It is. You're not just focused on the lab. You're thinking about how to ensure quality from farm to fork. The interviewer wants to see that you understand how all those pieces fit together and how your role contributes to a larger system.
So how do I paint that picture for them? What kind of examples should I use?
Think about the various stages of the supply chain. Sourcing ingredients, processing, packaging, storage, transportation, and distribution.
Okay.
How can you, as a food analyst, contribute to maintaining quality at each step? Maybe you have experience working with suppliers to set quality standards or developing protocols for monitoring temperature and humidity during storage and transportation.
So it's about showing them, I'm thinking about the whole journey, not just one isolated step.
Exactly. And remember to highlight any collaborations you've had with other departments like logistics, quality assurance, or regulatory affairs.
Yeah.
It's all about demonstrating your ability to work effectively within a complex system.
Okay. So collaboration is key.
Yes.
Now, are there any common pitfalls to avoid with this question?
Avoid giving a vague or overly simplistic answer. The interviewer wants to see that you understand the complexities of the supply chain and the challenges involved in maintaining quality throughout. Another trap is focusing solely on your own role. Remember, food safety is a team effort. Highlight your collaborative skills and your ability to work effectively with others.
Okay. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Right.
We've covered a lot of ground here, but I have to admit, thinking about all these questions still makes me a bit nervous.
Right.
What if I freeze up in the interview and forget everything we've talked about?
That's where RoleCatcher's AI-powered tools come in.
Yeah.
Think of it like having a personalized interview coach right in your pocket.
Okay, tell me more.
Okay.
How can RoleCatcher help me feel more confident and prepared?
So let's imagine you found a food analyst position you're really excited about.
Yep.
You upload your CV or resume to RoleCatcher, and their AI analyzes the job description, identifying the key skills and experience the employer is seeking.
Okay.
It's like having an instant skills gap analysis.
That sounds incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
So it's not just about checking for typos. It's about making sure my application is actually aligned with what they're looking for.
Exactly. RoleCatcher highlights any areas where your CV or resume might be lacking and suggests ways to strengthen it. You can even use their AI-powered CV and resume builder to tailor your application to the specific job requirements, which can significantly increase your chances of getting noticed by those AI-powered recruitment systems that many companies use now.
Wow. So it's like having a secret weapon to help me stand out from the crowd.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop there. RoleCatcher also has an AI-powered interview practice feature. You can record your responses to common interview questions and get personalized feedback on your delivery.
Okay.
It's like having a mock interview with an expert, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home.
That takes away so much of the pressure. So I can see how I come across on camera, identify any nervous habits, and really refine my delivery to project confidence.
Exactly. And the feedback isn't generic. It's tailored to the specific role you're applying for, taking into account the key skills and experience the employer is seeking.
That's amazing. So I'm not just getting general tips. I'm getting specific guidance on how to answer questions in a way that really resonates with the hiring manager.
Precisely. It's about maximizing your chances of making a lasting impression and landing that dream job. Now, before we jump into more specifics about using RoleCatcher's AI, let's take a quick detour and touch on the potential career paths you can explore in this field.
Sounds good. So where can a career in food analysis actually take me?
Well, you could start your journey as an entry-level analyst. You'd be focusing on performing basic tests, really mastering those fundamentals, and getting comfortable with all the equipment.
So it's all about building that solid foundation, kind of like an apprentice learning from the masters.
Exactly. Think of it as building your lab skills repertoire. As you gain experience, you might move into a junior analyst role. That's where you'd start taking on more complex analyses, developing new testing methods, even troubleshooting when things go wrong.
So you're not just following instructions anymore. You're starting to think critically and solve those real-world problems we were talking about earlier.
Right. And if you're someone who loves to lead and manage, the path to senior analyst could be for you. You'd be heading up teams, overseeing the entire lab operation, making sure everything is compliant with those ever-changing regulations.
So you're basically the conductor of the food safety orchestra, making sure everyone is playing in tune and hitting the right notes.
That's a great analogy. But what's also fascinating about this field is that it offers opportunities beyond the traditional lab setting. If you have a passion for research, you could pursue a career as a research scientist, focusing on specific areas of food science or developing cutting-edge analytical techniques.
So for those who are curious about the why behind food safety, there's a whole world of discovery waiting for them.
Absolutely. And for those who are drawn to the regulatory side of things, there are fantastic opportunities in quality assurance and regulatory affairs. Imagine being responsible for ensuring compliance with those crucial food safety standards and working with government agencies to shape the future of the industry.
So many options.
I know.
But for someone who's just starting out, what would you recommend as a first step?
Practical experience is invaluable. Seek out internships in food testing labs or quality control departments. You could even volunteer at food banks or community organizations that focus on food safety. It's a way to gain that hands-on experience and show potential employers that you're truly committed to this field.
So getting your hands dirty, literally, is the best way to learn the ropes.
Precisely. And as you progress in your career, never stop learning. Pursuing advanced degrees or certifications in specialized areas like HACCP, ISO 22000, or even becoming a certified food scientist can really open doors to leadership roles.
It sounds like continuous learning is a key ingredient for success in this field. Now, let's circle back to those 10 key interview questions from RoleCatcher. We've already talked about a few of them, but I think it's time to delve a bit deeper and really nail down how to approach them. What do you say?
Sounds good. Remember that first question about food safety regulations? Can you explain your understanding of food safety regulations? We talked about the importance of explaining the why behind the regulations, but let's give our listeners some concrete examples they can use.
Perfect. So besides mentioning GMPs and HACCP, what else could I bring up?
You could talk about the Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, which is a major piece of legislation in the U.S.
Right.
It's all about shifting from simply responding to outbreaks to proactively preventing them in the first place.
That sounds like a game changer. Can I mention how FSMA has impacted the way we approach things like traceability and risk assessment?
Absolutely. Showing that you understand the real-world impact of these regulations is key. Another good example would be to talk about specific regulations related to labeling.
Okay.
Especially if you're applying for a role where that's a major focus.
Okay. So I'm making a note to brush up on my FSMA knowledge and any labeling specific regulations that might be relevant to the position. Now, what about that question on troubleshooting food quality issues?
Right.
Can you tell me about a time when you had to troubleshoot a food quality issue? We talked about structuring the answer like a mini mystery.
Yes.
But do you have any tips on choosing a compelling example?
Remember, the goal is to showcase your analytical and problem-solving skills. So think back to a time when you encountered an unexpected result in the lab. Maybe a batch of product failed, a quality control test, or a sample had an unusual odor or color.
Those are definitely moments that make your heart skip a beat.
Yep.
So let's say I was analyzing a batch of milk, and the pH was way off. How can I turn that into a good interview story?
Walk them through your thought process, like step by step. Did you first check your equipment to make sure it was calibrated correctly?
Okay.
Did you review the procedures to ensure you followed them precisely? And then how did you investigate potential sources of contamination or errors in the production process?
It's like being a detective, following the clues until you solve the case.
Exactly. And once you identified the root cause, what actions did you take to correct the issue? Did you adjust the production process, reject the affected batch, or implement new quality control measures?
So it's not just about finding the problem, it's about showing how I took initiative to fix it and prevent it from happening again.
Exactly. And don't forget to highlight the outcome. Did your solution improve product quality, prevent a potential recall, or even earn you praise from your supervisor? Quantifying the impact of your actions always makes a stronger impression.
Okay, I'm starting to feel more confident about tackling that question. Now let's move on to that question about keeping up with industry developments. How do you keep up with the latest developments in the food industry? We talked about mentioning specific resources, but are there any other ways to impress the interviewer?
You can mention any professional development activities you've pursued. Have you taken any courses, attended any webinars, or even presented research at a conference?
So it's not just about what I read. It's also about actively engaging with the professional community.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to showcase your passion. Maybe there's a particular area of food science that you're really excited about, like novel food technologies or sustainable food production practices. Let your enthusiasm shine through.
Okay, so be specific, be active, and be passionate. Got it. Now, what about that question on sensory evaluation?
Right.
Can you describe your experience with sensory evaluation? What if I haven't had any formal training or worked on a sensory panel?
Remember, you can still highlight transferable skills. Even if you haven't conducted formal sensory evaluations, you've probably used your senses to assess food quality in other settings. Think about times when you've had to pay close attention to detail. Maybe you're a meticulous baker or a coffee aficionado who can distinguish between different roasts.
So I could talk about how I can tell when bread is perfectly proofed just by touch, or how I can detect a hint of bitterness in chocolate.
Those are fantastic examples. It shows that you have a keen sense of observation and the ability to discern subtle differences. You can also mention your willingness to learn more about formal sensory evaluation methods.
Okay, so I'm going to channel my inner food critic and showcase my sensory superpowers. Now let's move on to that question about quality control measures.
Okay.
What do you consider to be the most important quality control measures in food production? We've talked about GMPs and HACCP, but are there any other specific measures I could mention?
You could delve into the importance of environmental monitoring. Think about things like regularly testing water quality, air quality, and surface swabs to detect potential sources of contamination.
So it's not just about the food itself. It's about making sure the entire production environment is squeaky clean.
Exactly. You could also talk about the importance of pest control programs, personal hygiene practices, and even the design and maintenance of the facility itself.
Wow. It's like creating a fortress against contamination.
Another important measure is allergen control. You could highlight the importance of segregating allergenic ingredients, implementing thorough cleaning procedures to prevent cross-contamination, and clearly labeling products to inform consumers about potential allergens.
So it's about protecting those with food sensitivities and ensuring they have the information they need to make safe choices.
Exactly. And remember, whenever you're discussing quality control measures, always link them back to the ultimate goal of protecting consumers.
Got it. Safety first, always. Now, what about that question on working with external suppliers? Can you give an example of a time when you had to work with external suppliers to ensure food quality? What are some key points to emphasize?
Focus on your proactive approach to quality assurance. Maybe you identified a potential issue with an ingredient before it even reached the production facility. Or you developed a system for regularly auditing suppliers to ensure they meet your company's standards.
So it's about being a step ahead and preventing problems rather than just reacting to them after they occur.
Exactly. And don't forget to highlight your communication and problem-solving skills.
For instance, I could talk about a time when I had to work with a supplier to improve their packaging practices to prevent contamination during transportation.
That's a great example. It shows that you're not afraid to address challenging situations and collaborate with others to find solutions.
Right.
Now, let's talk about that tricky time management question. How do you manage your time when working on multiple projects simultaneously?
I know. I tend to get flustered when I have competing deadlines. What are some practical strategies I could mention?
One effective approach is to break down large projects into smaller, more manageable tasks. This can make the work feel less overwhelming and help you track your progress more easily.
So instead of staring at a giant mountain of work, I'm creating a series of stepping stones to reach the summit.
Exactly. You could also talk about the importance of setting realistic deadlines and prioritizing tasks based on their urgency and importance.
I like to use a color-coded system on my to-do list to prioritize tasks so I can visually see what needs my immediate attention.
That's a great visual strategy. And don't forget to mention any tools or techniques you use to stay organized, whether it's project management software, online calendars, or even good old-fashioned sticky notes.
So it's all about finding what works for me and showcasing my ability to stay on top of things even when the pressure's on.
Now let's move on to that question about ensuring accurate food labeling. How do you ensure that food products are labeled accurately and comply with regulatory requirements?
This one feels particularly important because it directly impacts consumers and their trust in the food they buy.
You're absolutely right. When answering this question, highlight your meticulous approach to detail and your thorough understanding of the regulations. Mention specific steps you take, like using checklists, conducting internal audits, and staying up to date on any changes to labeling requirements.
I could even talk about a time when I caught a labeling error that could have potentially misled consumers or even triggered an allergic reaction.
That's a powerful example. It demonstrates your commitment to accuracy and consumer safety.
All right, let's tackle that second to last question about implementing new analytical techniques. Can you describe a time when you had to implement a new analytical technique to evaluate food quality? What if I'm new to the field and haven't had a chance to spearhead any major changes yet?
Even if you haven't been in a position to implement a new technique on a large scale, you can still talk about your willingness to learn and adapt. Maybe you've shadowed a senior analyst while they were implementing a new method, or you've taken the initiative to learn about emerging technologies in your free time.
So it's about showing that I'm curious, adaptable, and always eager to expand my knowledge.
Precisely. You can also discuss any challenges you've encountered while learning new techniques and how you overcame them. This shows that you're resilient and resourceful.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I can handle any curveball they throw my way. Now, for our final question. How do you ensure that food quality is maintained throughout the supply chain? We've talked about the importance of a systems thinking approach, but are there any other key points to remember?
Emphasize your understanding of risk assessment and mitigation strategies. Talk about how you would identify potential hazards at each stage of the supply chain and what measures you would implement to minimize those risks.
So it's about being proactive and having a plan in place before problems even arise.
Exactly. You could also discuss the importance of documentation and record keeping throughout the supply chain. This helps ensure traceability and accountability, which are crucial for maintaining quality and safety.
It's like creating a detailed map of the food's journey from farm to fork, so we can track every step and identify any potential issues along the way.
That's a great way to think about it. Now, remember, when answering all of these questions, it's not just about what you say, it's also about how you say it. Confidence, enthusiasm, and a genuine passion for food safety will go a long way in impressing the interviewer. And speaking of confidence, let's dive back into how RoleCatcher's AI-powered tools can help you feel more prepared and polished before you even step into the interview room.
I'm all ears.
Yeah.
We talked about how RoleCatcher can analyze job descriptions and help tailor CVs and resumes, but what about practicing for the actual interview? I know I tend to get nervous and stumble over my words when I'm put on the spot.
That's where RoleCatcher's AI-powered interview practice tool can really be a game changer. Imagine having a virtual mock interview with a personalized coach who can analyze your responses, pinpoint areas for improvement, and boost your confidence before you even step into the real interview.
So it's like having a secret weapon in my pocket.
It's like having a secret weapon in your pocket. RoleCatcher's AI can analyze your video recordings, assess your body language, and even provide feedback on your tone of voice and pacing.
So it's not just about what I say, but also how I say it.
Absolutely. Nonverbal cues play a huge role in how we come across in interviews. RoleCatcher's AI can pick up on subtle things like fidgeting, lack of eye contact, or even speaking too quickly, which can all impact the interviewer's perception.
That's amazing. I know I tend to talk a mile a minute when I get nervous. So RoleCatcher can actually help me slow down, take a breath, and project a more calm and confident demeanor.
Exactly. And the feedback isn't just generic. It's tailored to the specific role you're applying for, taking into account the company culture and the interviewer's expectations.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So it's like having a personal stylist for my interview skills.
I love that analogy. It's about putting your best foot forward and showcasing your authentic self while also making sure you're aligned with the company's values and the demands of the role.
So it sounds like RoleCatcher's AI is like having a secret weapon in my arsenal, helping me not only prepare for those tough questions, but also refine my delivery and project confidence.
It's all about maximizing your potential and giving you the tools you need to succeed.
Well, I have to say, I'm feeling much more prepared and excited about tackling those food analyst interviews now. Thanks to RoleCatcher's insights and AI-powered tools, I feel like I have the knowledge, the skills, and the confidence to really shine.
Remember, preparation is key, but don't forget to relax, be yourself, and let your passion for food safety shine through.
And as a final thought, remember what we talked about earlier. Think back to a time when you faced a food quality challenge. How did you approach it? What steps did you take to solve it? That story, told with confidence and enthusiasm, could be your interview gold.
Absolutely. Stories are powerful. They help you connect with the interview on a personal level and demonstrate your skills in a memorable way.
So for all of you aspiring food analysts out there, remember, you have the power to make a real difference in the world. You are the guardians of safe and delicious food. And with the right preparation and the incredible resources available through RoleCatcher, you can confidently pursue your dreams and land that perfect job. Good luck, you've got this. So it's like having a secret weapon in my pocket.
It's like having a secret weapon in your pocket. RoleCatcher's AI can analyze your video recordings, assess your body language, and even provide feedback on your tone of voice and pacing.
So it's not just about what I say, but also how I say it.
Absolutely. Nonverbal cues play a huge role in how we come across in interviews. RoleCatcher's AI can pick up on subtle things like fidgeting, lack of eye contact, or even speaking too quickly, which can all impact the interviewer's perception.
That's amazing. I know I tend to talk a mile a minute when I get nervous. So RoleCatcher can actually help me slow down, take a breath, and project a more calm and confident demeanor.
Exactly. And the feedback isn't just generic. It's tailored to the specific role you're applying for, taking into account the company culture and the interviewer's expectations.
That's incredible. So it's like having a personal stylist for my interview skills.
I love that analogy. It's about putting your best foot forward and showcasing your authentic self while also making sure you're aligned with the company's values and the demands of the role.
So it sounds like RoleCatcher's AI is like having a secret weapon in my arsenal, helping me not only prepare for those tough questions, but also refine my delivery and project confidence.
It's all about maximizing your potential and giving you the tools you need to succeed.
Well, I have to say, I'm feeling much more prepared and excited about tackling those food analyst interviews now. Thanks to RoleCatcher's insights and AI-powered tools, I feel like I have the knowledge, the skills, and the confidence to really shine.
Remember, preparation is key. But don't forget to relax, be yourself, and let your passion for food safety shine through.
And as a final thought, remember what we talked about earlier. Think back to a time when you faced a food quality challenge. How did you approach it? What steps did you take to solve it? That story, told with confidence and enthusiasm, could be your interview gold.
Absolutely. Stories are powerful. They help you connect with the interviewer on a personal level and demonstrate your skills in a memorable way.
So for all of you aspiring food analysts out there, remember, you have the power to make a real difference in the world. You are the guardians of safe and delicious food. And with the right preparation and the incredible resources available through RoleCatcher, you can confidently pursue your dreams and land that perfect job. Good luck, you've got this.